Hi, my name is Naya, and you're watching Society Icebreaker.
That's good. Look what I got over here, man. How you been?
I've been good. How are you?
I've been good. I've been chilling. Look, I got Naya on here, man. See, look, I got 7 questions for you. Ready?
Let's do it.
All right. So, look, the first question: what was it like going to HBCU school, and what made you decide to go to Howard University?
Ooh, let's see. Going to an HBCU, definitely a culture shock because you remember where we went to school. So a little bit of an adjustment, but also one of the most empowering things I've ever experienced in my entire life. The entire university is Black people from around the world with so many perspectives and talents and ideas about how to do things differently, with an entire faculty that is like, I don't know how other universities function, but at an HBCU and Howard specifically, it's personal. Like everyone at that school is there for Black power, Black liberation, Black social advancement. And so your professors, when that's their mindset even, they take you and your academic development so personally. And everyone's coming in with all of these concepts like, well, how can we do business differently? How can we approach school differently? And it really puts you in this mindset of like, you come to the table with talents, you have good ideas, and your ideas deserve to be implemented. And when you do, things get better for a lot of people. And that's a dope environment to go learn and develop in. And why did I choose Howard specifically? Honestly, I wish I could say it was this big thing, but I went to Accepted Students Day, which is this like, it's an event kind of between April and May when Decision Day comes up, and they bring all of the they invite all the accepted students, and they bring out the band and the majorettes and the cheerleaders and all the fraternities and sororities, and they put on this big show and introduce you to the campus and just kind of give you a taste of what Howard can be like.
That's tough.
I stepped on the campus, and in 5 minutes, I was just like, I love the energy here. I'll figure out the rest.
There's always like famous people that's going there and everything.
There are a lot. Howard has a really solid fine arts department and networking connections. Howard, I mean, that's my HBCU, so I'm gonna hype them up, right? But
as she should.
Howard's dope in the sense that everything Howard does is about the culture. So it's about academics and research. We go, we learn, we discuss big ideas and figure out what to do about them. You're getting your degree, you're trying to get a job, but it's about the process of how you do it. It's about making it feel like the African diaspora. And so they really integrate the performance side of it and the expressiveness of art, and they really just pour into their students, and everything at Howard has meaning. And especially if you're in fine arts or if you want to be an actor or in the public eye, Howard gives their students a lot of opportunities within Howard to practice that, because any event we have that's especially cultural based, our students are producing it. They're behind the scenes. They're doing the run of show. They're the ones acting. If we have a fashion show, there are student designers. And with that alumni network, like I was saying earlier, this is personal. People that go to Howard, they want to change the world in real time, and alumni don't forget that. So the ones that have made it, Howard's like 200 years into the game at this point, right? Or it's give or take. It was like the 1800s. Howard? Yeah. So the ones that made it, it's still personal. And so we have a university that really encourages students to take leadership roles in developing those events. And if that's where you want to go, it's good to get that experience early on. But then you also have alumni that come back and say, I remember being a Howard student. I know Howard students are capable, and we're the ones putting the shows together. Why don't you come do this collab with me at Nike? I'm going to give y'all a sponsorship for this fashion show or this event. And it's family. Like, Howard Bison, anywhere you go in the country, like, you've got somebody that's got your back. And it really does become an international family, because we have like Caribbean international students, we have African international students. It really is a collective project. It's like, all right, I made it. I know how many people poured into me once I made it. I'm going to come back and we're going to scale this even more, like at every level.
That's tough. Listen, Howard, you gotta sponsor her. She just she just gave y'all a whole good report. So look, if you want to go to Howard, I right here just gave you a whole report of the school. So what career path did you pursue?
I am still in pursuit of it, but I'm thinking about becoming a professor in cultural studies. So,
What's the reason why?
yeah, bring that one in here. What is the reason why in 30 seconds or less? Culture is everything.
Mm-hmm.
Culture is the container that we live in. It's like if you're a fish in the ocean, right?
Yeah.
You don't know that you're in the ocean, but it's going to affect every decision you make. How you swim, how you hunt, how you get food, how you live your life. Humans are the same way. Our container is our culture. And so we build our culture, but our culture also shapes us from our values and belief systems to the decisions we make to the goals we set and pursue. A lot of them are influenced by the culture that we're raised in.
That's different.
And I want it to look different. I want us to have different values and beliefs. I want us to set different goals, and I want us to come up with different ways of moving towards those goals that are more supportive to more human beings, more equitable, that, you know, protect the planet and protect kids, and really just gives people a better quality of life. And you know, shameless plug, shout out to Howard, because my first introduction to that was being thrown into a whole different culture and realizing like it's not one size fits all. And something as simple as, you know, we would start seminars with African drum circles, and that changed the energy of the room, and it changed the type of conversations we had. And if something that little can cause such a drastic effect, like I want to teach other students and make that more popular. Like there are things that are good for people, and right now the things that are really good for people and good for the planet, they're kind of a counterculture. You have to find safe spaces, or you know, the quirky ones that are doing it. I want that to be our default because it's good for people, so why shouldn't it be?
That's tough. So look, the next question, you know, it's Trump. You feel me? A lot of people don't, they feel some type of way about him. So do you feel like the world is going to regret Trump becoming president?
I think Trump is going to be tricky for a very long time, and he's going to be very polarizing, right? And the way I put it in perspective is like, we look at Hitler and the Holocaust, right? 40, 50, 60 years later, the history books all have a kind of general consensus. Like, hey, the way he built power and, you know, the things he did with that power were really malicious and heinous. We can't condone this. And it's a general consensus once people are removed from it. It's like, this is wrong, and this is like line in the sand. We don't go that far. What people are missing with Trump that they missed with Hitler and leaders like him is that people didn't hate him while he was doing it. He gave people hope. He, you know, made it seem like there was a way out. And so a lot of people are feeling that. There are some economic vulnerabilities and there's some political instability in the country that's forming. And he makes people feel safe, whether that's valid or not. He creates that feeling for a lot of people. And so I think over the coming years, that doesn't just go away, no matter what his policies are for the next 4 years, because he generated a certain feeling that got him into power. He's going to be very controversial for quite some time, because we see it now. He's really polarizing. There are people that completely hate him and people that completely love him. That gray area doesn't just disappear. If you haven't made a decision on him already, you're probably not going to, and you're not going to change your mind. So right now, as far as like people regretting making him president, I don't think we're going to see that for a very long time, because within that sense of safety, if you already support him, if you already are feeling inspired by him, no matter what he does, it's pretty hard to change that. People are going to make excuses for it. They're going to say, well, this result didn't happen because of Trump. It happened because of XYZ. It's not going to be an overnight shift. Even if things go wrong, it's going to be one of those things that retroactively, history looks back at the bigger picture and goes, we might have goofed a little bit on that one.
Do you feel like he can help us like economically or no? You feel like he's gonna destroy us or like what's your mindset? Can he help or be beneficial?
Do I think he could? Absolutely. Do I think he will? Not a chance. He's
a lot of people gonna be mad about that. A lot of people gonna be mad about that.
He's a businessman.
Mm-hmm.
He's very wealthy. He has very wealthy friends and connections. The economic policies he passes are going to be on behalf of wealthy people like him and his friends.
You're right about that.
There's all the wealth gap is larger than it's ever been in history. The middle class is shrinking and basically disappearing. It doesn't exist right now. And like, if you need figures for that, salary compared to housing costs, it was easier to buy a house during the Great Depression than it is right now. Housing during the Great Depression would have been on average 14% of the average American salary. Today it's 22%.
It's so crazy because like a townhouse is fucking $300K. Like I've been looking at houses trying to get one for me and everything, but all I keep seeing is $300K, $400K, and it just everything is horrible right now. But a lot of people saying that's coming from Biden work. Do you believe that or no?
Again, I think it's more complex than most of us are able to talk about at any given moment. A lot of political changes kind of have a delayed effect. A sitting president and their cabinet can pass a policy amendment, and we're not going to see the effects of that for another 4, 8, 10, 20 years. So a lot of what we're seeing now was set in motion in the 60s. A lot of what we're seeing now was set in motion by Trump's last presidency, compounded by the Biden administration. They didn't really do anything to fix it. But I think to simplify it and say like, oh, did this one administration do this thing, oversimplifies the issue. Because nothing we're seeing today is new. If we get into like, I'm literature and social science all the way, so that's always where I go, right? But there are social scientists and artists and writers from the mid-late 1900s that were kind of looking around and saying, these are the problems I see. If we don't fix them right now, 30 years from now, these are the results of it. And that's pretty much what's happened. Like, we've just had a series of poor political administrations, and it's like bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. We're getting the brunt of it now. We're seeing the most extreme end of this, but none of this is surprising as far as like inevitable outcomes of different decisions. Like, America has been trying to put a Band-Aid on a very big problem for a very long time, but like it's a bullet wound. And it was a bullet wound in the 1940s after World War II, and they've just been slapping Band-Aids on it, and basically every administration's policy for the last 50, 60 years has been stem the bleeding just long enough to get to next year. It's like, well, it doesn't actually help us get anywhere. It's not a Trump or Biden thing. It's an, hey, America, what are we doing? And like, it's time to really make some radical shifts and
we need to
start addressing issues and not just.
Do you feel like Trump bring racism back with him, or like behind him, or?
I think Trump makes people comfortable expressing the racism that they already had. So, a disclaimer, big fan of the civil rights movement. I'm not knocking anything that anybody has done up until this point because every generation is different and has its struggles. I think what we miss is that just because a law is signed or the Constitution is amended doesn't mean that people automatically shift their beliefs and emotions to match it. We can write on paper, everybody's equal, we're going to follow it. That doesn't mean your neighbor next to you actually agrees with that. It just means now it's politically incorrect to say that he doesn't agree with it. So I think that part of it is that there's been this underlying sentiment and people have just been waiting to be allowed to get away with it. I think that
it's very loud too.
Very
loud.
And I think that Trump and his style of speaking in public makes it worse. It's a very typical political tactic. But again, America has a lot of political instability. We're going through a lot of social changes. There are different social rights movements. Like, there's a lot changing in our country very rapidly.
Yeah.
And when that happens, people get scared, and a lot of people aren't doing well. Yeah. And what Trump gets up on stage and does is he singles out specific racial groups, and he says, hey, I know your life is bad. I know you're struggling, but don't blame the government. Don't blame businesses. Don't look to any of the actual root causes of why things are hard for you. Mm-hmm. Don't look to the fact that we sent working class jobs overseas. It's Mexicans and it's Black people and it's, whoever else I want to throw under the bus today. And so
you never hear about like Caucasian at all. It's always either Black, Mexicans, like or China or Chinese people. It's crazy.
So a lot of it is not that Trump is making people more racist. It's that if there's already this underlying sentiment, he's really just capitalizing it and playing on a blame game, because it's a dirty strategy, but it's a political strategy. You get supporters by giving other people someone else. It's called scapegoating. So he's like, put all the blame on these people, and if you get rid of these people, your life gets better.
Yeah.
Not that your life actually will, not that it's based in fact, not that it's accurate, but it gives people a sense of comfort. It gives people a place to project all of their tension and frustration onto, and it takes the heat off of the systems and institutions that actually create problems for people. And it's true for white people too, and that's why that works, right? I have a very difficult time in 2025 trying to continue playing this race game and pitting people against each other.
Yeah.
Because really everyone's scared. Everyone's trying to feed their family. Everyone's trying to figure out how to pay their bills. We have a dwindling middle class. It's getting harder. There are barely jobs available to anybody, regardless of race or skin color.
It's hard. Shit. Can you ever see it like end with the whole racist card and everything with racist? They always gonna be there.
I'm not sure. It's complicated because there are so many things that go into creating the conditions for racism and prejudice.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing to get into. We probably don't have time to do it here. But when we're talking about racism, like, it's an expression of a bunch of different competing factors.
Yeah.
And so really you see the most racist push when there are other psychological things at play. When people are scared, when people are feeling threatened. It's human nature to cling to what's similar and to reject differences.
Yeah.
And when you have a set of conditions that makes you feel threatened and worrying whether or not you can survive, it's almost second nature to kind of play an us versus them game.
Yeah.
I think the most immediate strategy is addressing the conditions. If people don't feel threatened, they have less of a need to do that.
That's true.
Long term, do I think racism is always a thing for humanity? No. But I think that it's not something that goes away overnight. I don't think it's something that goes away in our lifetime. Yeah. I don't know if it goes away in the next millennia. Like, that would have to be
a working
next
project.
Yeah, that would have to be like the next spiritual awakening of humanity, because it's so much deeper than just race. Really, like, racism and all of the isms are just expressions of psychological vulnerabilities that are, being emphasized by cultural conditions.
Oh, that's right.
You can address the conditions, and eventually you can address the psychology, but that takes some time.
That's crazy. Look, she giving you game. Best game, man. Future professor. What's your opinion on what ICE arresting illegal immigrants?
I'm gonna make this very clear for you and the audience. Nobody's illegal on stolen land. America's a colonized country. There were people living here beforehand. Go look up any indigenous community in any state, any area you live in. There were people here first, including Mexican people. They were indigenous to this land. People were crossing the border because the two countries were connected, and before we came up with borders, people could go back and forth. You can't have illegal people on land that you stole.
Oh,
so,
man.
We can leave that there, because, ICE shouldn't even exist, but, there are plenty of other things to do.
It definitely messed up. You got family trying to survive, get away from, the old environment that was in, and it's just taking them back where they trying to leave is just horrible. But
and America doesn't like to take credit for what it does in the world, but there was a specific period in time where the American imperative was basically we're the saviors of the world and we get to set global economic policy. And that's usually something we position as a strength, right? Like
Yeah.
we're world leaders, we're, the peacekeepers, we're the keepers of democracy. A lot of what we do is we go into these countries and we influence people to sign agreements and treaties that benefit us and hurt other people.
Yeah.
When we look at economic instability around the world, 9 times out of 10, America played a part in helping that to happen. That's another thing. Like people are escaping to have a better life.
Yeah.
And no one's questioning why is their life so bad or rough in the first place. A lot of it is because of things that we have historically done when we go to other countries.
That's facts. Like I said, she giving out game. So next question: what is something that needs to be spoken on that doesn't get a lot of attention?
We are in the middle of a national mental health crisis, and
a lot of people don't talk about mental health at all. I thought you were gonna say healthcare because I don't. The way how healthcare is set up right now, I don't really agree with it. I don't like how you pay insurance company a lot of money, and when you really need your health to get rebuilt or you need to have medicine, they got the chance to tell you no, and you paying all this money. I don't like it. But mental health, yes, I like that right there.
It's all connected. We might come back and do another show just unpacking that.
Yes.
But as far as mental health, right? Everybody is struggling with it right now.
Yeah.
I think even within mental health, there's a lot of misconceptions with how we've come to understand it and diagnose it. When you really understand the human body and the brain and the nervous system, a lot of the symptoms of mental illnesses are reasonable, rational responses to really irrational circumstances.
Yeah.
If you can't pay your bills, if you're struggling to figure out how you're going to feed your family, being anxious isn't a disorder. It's pretty natural. So that's one aspect of it.
Yeah.
The other is that there are non-medical ways to address it, and it's the extension of this whole self-care movement. And I love a good bubble bath. I love a good candle. But everybody get into breath work because that's what's going to calm your nervous system and foster enough resilience for us to survive really irrational circumstances. Because it's not fair, but we have to move through it. And I think that we've got to get specific on who's struggling with mental health and how, because it presents differently in everybody. Men and children and youth specifically, the suicide rates are skyrocketing. And like,
it's crazy.
I'm not going to get caught up into culture wars of who deserves what, because at the end of the day, people are dying, right? Like, we need to protect our kids and we need to figure out what's going on with our men.
Do you feel like with them giving out medicine, try to control like whatever people dealing with their mental health and everything, do you feel like it's necessary? Because me, honestly, I don't like people taking medicine just to calm something down that they're dealing with. I feel like you should deal with it like naturally. Because if you're taking medicine and say you're depressed and you're trying to take medicine to calm you down so you don't be depressed all the time, I don't think that's good because in life you gotta go through stuff. You gotta feel stuff. And that's the only way you can be able to fix yourself. But taking medicine is not gonna help you at all. That's all you're gonna do is just numb you and they're gonna make you used to the medicine. Like, what's your opinion on that?
I think it exists in a spectrum and there are a lot of really dope counselors, psychologists, and psychiatrists working this out right now. There's not a complete answer on how to address this, but I will say the field of mental health care and treatment is shifting. There's a time and a place for everything, right? So when people are in deep crisis mode, their mental health has been spiraling uncontrollably, I think medicine saves lives. It's the same as, I'm asthmatic, right?
Yeah.
If I get to the point that I am having a full-blown asthma attack, preventative care is great, but prednisone is going to save my life and make it so that I can breathe right this second. And I think that medicating mental illness functions similarly. But in the same vein, I have asthma. So I'm going to do breath work and I'm going to do cardio regularly. And I'm going to watch what I eat because there are certain things that inflame asthma. And those are things that strengthen my lungs across time so that I'm less vulnerable to a severe asthma attack anyway. And I think mental health is similar. Like, if you are worrying about whether you can function, if it's to the point that it's critical and it's crippling and debilitating, get on the medicine because it'll give you that boost.
Yeah.
But also there are holistic and lifestyle changes that will improve your mental health over the long term. And,
Yeah.
maybe we can wean people off medicine. Maybe if people engage in preventative care earlier, they never need to get on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of this is being figured out in real time. So
Yeah.
there's no clear cut answer. There's not too many licensed professionals that can give a clear direction on this.
Yeah.
But there are things that can be done, like yoga, breath work. There's Hakomi healers. There's a big push towards the psychosomatic connection. So there's somatic experience healers. There are different types of therapy where I think, if we need medicine and it's a temporary thing and it helps, then do it. But I also think it should not just be this widely accepted thing of just, well, I'm on medicine now and that's just what it is for the rest of my life.
So basically, it should be balanced.
Mm-hmm.
Understood. So look, the next question: what do you do to help yourself when you become stressed? I know you threw out there like yoga and stuff. Like, what do you do to help yourself?
I think it depends on what is stressing me out specifically. Mm-hmm. But I guess the main ones, I will put on music and have a dance session and just get it out.
Yeah.
I'll surround myself with friends and my support system. Sometimes that helps. I love weightlifting. I love yoga. Sometimes just, yoga's great if I'm really anxious. It helps me calm myself down. Weightlifting is good for pretty much everything else. It's just been a hard reset, gets rid of a lot of negative emotions. And then in between those moments of stress, and once I have calmed down, I do a lot of reflecting on my day-to-day schedule. I figure out where did the stress come from in the first place? Because I think it's great for people to have strategies to calm stress.
Yeah.
But I cannot drive home enough just how detrimental stress is to human health and well-being. Stress will literally kill you. So
that's the crazy part about it. Yes.
It's great to be able to de-stress, but when and where you're able to, avoiding it in the first place, 10 out of 10.
Look, guys, if you're having a stressful day, like she said, do yoga, jog, lift, do whatever that make you happy. A lot of people like to write, a lot of people like to paint. Whatever help you de-stress, go do that. For the last final question, what advice can you give to the audience?
What advice can I give to the audience? There's a lot going on in our country right now. There's a lot going on personally for a lot of people right now. Take care of yourselves. Learn how to take care of yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and the rest will come. No matter what you're dealing with, it all goes away the second your health goes away in any of those categories. Take care of yourself first, build the rest on that, because if you can't show up, nothing else does.
Look, my advice to y'all, take risks, but like I always say to y'all, do not take stupid risks. Take a risk that got a chance to change your life. Don't settle for nothing. Don't settle for an average life. Go be you. Go have fun and just live. But look, I appreciate you coming on. This season 2, episode 3. Thank you. All right, y'all.